Right, good afternoon and welcome back to SME SDG Festival 2021, which is part of a month-long virtual event, SDG Ambition Month 2021. Thank you for still being here. To all our participants, thank you very much. And we are going to move into the next session, which is the fourth panel session for today. Just to tell you a little bit about what's going to happen in this session, of course, ladies and gentlemen, over the course of history on our planet, we have seen numerous revolutions which have shaken the very foundation of many nations. And in this next session, the panelists will discuss on another type of revolution, which is the SME digital revolution, how we can thrive in the changing business landscape. But before I introduce the panelists and the moderator as well, just to remind you that coming up later, the closing keynote address will be delivered by Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Rafidah Aziz. That's coming up a little bit later, in fact, right after this panel session. So we hope you'll stay here until the end of today's event. Looking forward to that closing keynote address. And of course, looking forward to this panel session. The panelists are Dr. Farouk Abdullah, Chief Digital Officer of Berjaya Corp, Mr. Wilson Low, Chief Executive Officer of Wilstech Sdn Bhd, Ms. Kausalya Gopal, Director of Economics and Policy Division, SME Corp Malaysia, Ms. Aiza Azreen Ahmad, Chief Digital Business Officer of MDEC, and the moderator for this session. Well, she is the Associate Director of Programs at UN Global Compact Network Malaysia and Brunei, and she is also Director at Shaping Asia Media Sdn Bhd and has managed custom business content for The Economist and Time magazine based out of Spain, Kenya, and Indonesia. She co-founded the platform ASEAN Business Leaders, which features interviews and other ASEAN business content. So, ladies and gentlemen, to talk about SME digital revolution, thriving in the changing business landscape. And again, I remind you, please keep your questions coming in. We want to hear your thoughts and idea. We want to get you participate in today's discussion. So please keep your questions and thoughts coming in into the chat box. Now, I'm going to hand the floor over to our moderator, none other than Ms. Shanta Helena Dwarkasing, Associate Director of Programs of UN Global Compact Network Malaysia and Brunei. Over to you, Ms. Shanta.
Excellent. Hello and good afternoon, everybody. And I'm very pleased to welcome you to this panel today, which is the SME Digital Revolution, Thriving in the Changing Business Landscape. So you may wonder why we have the subject of digitalization included in the sustainability conference. Because during the day, we heard several speakers who were touching upon the importance of technology in order to drive sustainability. So technology has the power to increase productivity, efficiency, cost savings, reduce product waste, make efficient use of resources, all of which we can help to minimize impact on the environment. In addition to that, technology can also help to promote governance and transparency into your business. So overall, tech can contribute not only to a better sustainability performance, but as well to your overall business performance. So in order to address the role of technology and digitalization amongst SMEs, I'm very pleased to have this panel of experts with us today. And we have both the public and the private sector being represented here. So they've been introduced already. Dr. Farouk Abdullah, Chief Digital Officer of Berjaya Corp, Ms. Wilson Lau, who is the CEO founder of Wilstech, Ms. Kausalya Gopal, the Director of Economics and Policy Division of SME Corp Malaysia, and Ms. Aiza Azreen Ahmad, the Chief Digital Business Officer at MDEC. And so the first question I would like to direct to Ms. Aiza, because even though the benefits of digitalization are evident, but however, the adoption rate within the SMEs community has not been so encouraging. So what do you think is holding SMEs back, and how can we overcome the challenges in order to really drive the adoption of technology amongst SMEs?
Shanta, thank you so much. Okay, I'll always start this with Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And also good afternoon for everyone listening, and especially the esteemed panel speakers that I'm in today. Suffice to say that I'm extremely nervous. After looking and googling and stalking them on the internet, I can see that I'm not sure if I'm worthy to be here, but I will try my very best. You asked a very poignant question about SME adoption in terms of the digitalization, and I can see the stats in the questions earlier on saying that perhaps there's only 57%, 57% has not gone into digitalization. But where I am currently, I feel that it's actually more than that. And the reason why is because, I'm not trying to be novel about what's going on, but nobody predicted COVID-19 to have such big impact, right? No one predicted that this is going to have everybody locked up for 2 years. I mean, quite frankly, I mean, we're all just out of being locked up for 2 years. And when we are locked up, it's not just about physically locking us up, but really mentally, we are also suppressing ourselves because of the environment we're in, right? So if I take that and apply that to SMEs, most of the MSMEs in Malaysia, or MSME and SME in Malaysia, they're so used to have brick and mortar. This is literally, whether it's culture, whether it's really how we do things in this part of the world, we are so used in terms of tactile, being personalized, touching someone. When I say touching, it's not physically touching, it's really giving products and services by way of being in front of the person, right? Being in front of the consumers, being in front of customers, and customers can be consumers, can be business as well. So just going back to previously, I mean, I've done digital. I think I started perhaps, wow, my goodness, a while ago. I mean, I've started thinking about it and doing things around it in 2007. As you know, I spent my formative years in Australia where tactile and dealing with business can be done without actually meeting the person. We're so used to that kind of culture. But in that course of doing digitalization, I had so many failures, multiple failures, even when I'm working with big names, right? Big telco giants, big bank giants. And all because of one thing that if you've asked, why is it so difficult for them to actually adopt digitalization? Number one is fear of the unknown. Unknown because of the cost involved in digitalization, unknown in the sense that if I go digital, would I lose my clients because now they don't see me in front of their face anymore? There's no personalized relationship anymore, right? So I think it's largely attributable to fear of the unknown. Now, that is the part where we are talking about those people that needs to adopt. Now, on the government side, as well as maybe what I would say on the industry side, is really the awareness. Sometimes we take it for granted that, oh, they know this already. People can Google this out. But the value of actually telling and the value of actually telling and convincing, that's different. You tell someone to adopt digital, and then you go like, okay, they're gonna adopt it. They have to because of the pandemic, because of NCO. No, you tell them, hey, digitalization is very important. Now, convincing them to actually believe that is a totally different ball game. So I'm going to finish off my answer by saying this. Yeah, I think the whole entire subject about digitalization and sustainability, we cannot take it as mutually exclusive anymore. They are, in fact, now married, if I can use the word. Digitalization and sustainability is now married, and they're going to have beautiful babies from now on, in the sense that continuity in terms of the business. So I'm going to finish off this because I want everybody to kind of, challenge me on this, or this is not really a promotion or me saying MDEC is doing the right things per se, but I just want to let you know, for now, to increase the awareness of digitalization, believe it or not, where I am at adoption division, I'm running 4 areas: data ecosystem development, e-commerce, business digital adoption, and also digital infrastructure, looking at cybersecurity and cloud. So in total, I've got 4 businesses that I run, but we have to do more than, there's a lot of programs, but I can say at this moment, we've got about 8 programs to create the awareness. We have the 100 Go Digital Coaching run by Business Digital Adoption. It's led by, we a very, very, not to say a very, very young, but we identified a young talent to kind of push through. He's also running SME Digital Accelerator, SME Digital Playbook to kind of get the younger generation of digital champions to come forth, right? Then we've got community engagement. We even have National SME Digitalization Roadmap to chart out the path for digitalization. We've got grants, which is SME Business Digitalization Grant. We've got Smart Automation Grant, and we got Go E-Commerce. So imagine all this program in place to actually create awareness and to drive adoption. So with that, Shanta, I'm going to take leave for now and let other speakers to kind of give us their ideas of how we can accelerate this more. Thank you for listening. Please, over
Great.
to you.
Thank you, Aiza. I really like your description of the marriage between the technology and sustainability. So in order to increase that awareness, maybe we should all celebrate one big wedding ceremony, you know?
Yeah.
And so continuing on the same question, to really have another perspective on what are some of the challenges and amongst SME for digital adoption. Perhaps Ms. Kausalya, could you also comment on this question?
Okay, thank you, Shanta. A very good afternoon, salam sejahtera to all the my panelists as well as the audience today. Because I'm from the economics division, so I have to tell numbers, but that's very relevant to our topic today. I think you all have heard from morning, 97% of businesses in Malaysia are SMEs. That is around 1.15 million out of the 1.8 million. So you know how important are SMEs to the ecosystem. But out of the 1.15 million, 78% are micro enterprises. So within the SMEs, we have micro, small, and medium. Usually, the small companies are more agile. They can change fast, and because one thing is because they are small, they can change fast, and the other thing, they have more resources than the micro enterprises. But in the case of micro enterprises, which are 78%, bulk of the SMEs are micro enterprises. When you say micro enterprises, either their workers have less than 5 or their annual sales turnover is 300,000 and less. So these kind of companies, what we see in terms of digitalization is because of I have to say thank you to COVID, their online presence has increased. They have started using mobile phone, online presence, but they still have not automated their business processes. Why? One reason can be bulk of them are actually our mom and pop shop. They are retailers. When you're actually having a factory or you're doing some kind of manufacturing activities, it's easier to automate or go digital. But if you are in retail, you may find it a little bit harder to digitalize your back-end processes. You can be done, but it's a little bit, maybe they don't see the benefit of digitalizing now. By the nature, they are very small. The other angle that we are looking at is the structural issue before COVID and post-COVID. It has been the same for the past 10 years in Malaysia. What is one of the most important issue for SMEs? High cost of raw material. When you say high cost of raw material is, the products they have to buy. It's not high cost of operation. If you say high cost operation, they can reduce it by going digital. But this is high cost of raw material. Either you go digital or you don't go digital, it's still there. So this is one of the issue that we see among SMEs, which they may think that going digital will not really help them in their cost of doing business. But having said that, we could see that more and more players are going online, yes, and also going digital, which due to the support by the government, even the recent budget, around 350 million dedicated to SMEs, only SMEs to go digital. So this is something good. And you can see in the national plan, RMK12, a lot of things has been mentioned about digitalization. They have even set a target of 90% of SMEs to go digital by 2025. So there's a lot of emphasis has been put by the government in helping SMEs to go digital. I believe that the whatever support that the government give for digitalization not only marry towards sustainability, but you also have to address other structural issues, which you can't separate them. Labor, high cost of doing business, it all comes together in same. the same page for SME. So this is some of the things that we may need to address in addition to helping them to go digitalized. Don't forget the other issues that will help them to embark into digitalization. In the case of SME Corp Malaysia, what we have done is for the past 1 year, a lot of our, of course, even for the past like 5 years, all of our application is online, which again will increase transparency. All the grant application is done online. You don't have to see the officers to submit documents. And recently, we introduced a platform called My Assist MSME. This is a platform where it has multiple assistants, online multiple assistants for SMEs. One is you can book online appointment. You don't have to come to SME Corp office, either at our HQ in KL Central or our state offices. You can go online, and we have business counselors. Maximum you can meet them 20 minutes. After that, you can arrange for subsequent meetings either by email or other mode, or if you need to meet someone else, we will help you. So that's online, you from anywhere, because we always have issues where sometimes SMEs from Sabah Sarawak say it's very hard to come to KL to get information. Say no problem, because even SME Corp, our state offices are only at the cities like Kuching and Kota Kinabalu. So you can go online and see any of us. That's online. We also do online business matching. So a lot of things have gone online in terms of the government service and delivery that we are giving to the SMEs, in addition to help them, in addition to the support given by MDEC in terms of grant as well as facilitation to help them to digitalize. Thank you.
Excellent. I believe after this speech, we will see a surge in digital applications to SME Corp from our audience that we have been. And Kausalya, earlier you mentioned as well, like the cost of business, and perhaps this could provide a good bridge to my next question, which is more about like the link between digitalization and productivity. So for this question, I'd like to get in Dr. Farouk's comment from more of a corporate side. And actually, how can investments in digitalization be recovered through productivity gains? And if so, in what areas do SMEs like businesses justify making these digital investments?
Thanks, Shanta. Yeah, it's interesting question on productivity and digitalization and ROI. I guess that's the question that we have here, right? So what's my return on investment if I did go through digitalization process? I think I want to pick up on what Ms. Kausalya has mentioned earlier on. It's an ecosystem change that needs to happen, Shanta. I think sometimes we look at digitalization and we say, hey, buy new laptops and transfer everything to the cloud. That will solve all the problems for you from an SME perspective. But I think we as a corporate, or as corporate Malaysia, if you want to put it that way, we have to help them from a full ecosystem perspective. And from a full ecosystem perspective, I totally agree that we have to look at government processes. We have to make life a bit easier for the SME, because the processes itself will as a corporate, we feel it. So as an SME, they will even feel it more, which is trying to register your employee, trying to register tax for your employee, trying to register your business, trying to all those has to be digitalized, and that's part of the digitalization that can happen outside the SMEs world that will increase productivity for the SMEs, because the key valuable asset of an SME's owner-manager, which is usually run by an owner-manager, is time. So we can provide them with all the funding, we can provide them with all the tools, we can provide them with all the equipment, but what they don't have is the time to do it, because they have to run a business, right? So when we talk about productivity gains in this context, to bring it back to the question, the productivity gains is through getting time back for themselves to run their business more effectively, and ultimately getting more sales and reducing costs, right? And to do that, it means that their processes has to be streamlined. So we can talk about, getting them on an e-commerce platform, and getting them to get grants to digitalize parts of their businesses. But crucially, I think if you look at the extreme ends, from the micro to the larger SMEs, whether you're in manufacturing or you're in the retail business or you're selling Kropo, or you are you're providing whatever services that you're providing, the crucial part is your business management component, which is I have to be able to do my administrative stuff and as little time as I can, right? So I think that is where the ROI will happen. So digitalizing your end-to-end process in terms of reducing paperwork, which again leads to the sustainability question. So removing paperwork, removing invoices, right? Removing having to have a delivery slip whenever I deliver something to the client and they sign it and it gets back to me. All that is investments that will help them increase their ROI, because it then becomes, it will then enable better data tracking, better data monitoring, and then it will enable them to use that data to make better business decisions. So it has to start with, how do I improve the processes? In a lot of the digitalization projects that we've been involved in, bearing in mind that Berjaya has large companies and we also have SMEs in our subsidiaries, the main problem they have is, how do we then improve their processes? If you start with the processes, digitalization will come in, and then it will follow by how to use the data from the digitalization process. Anything that is not digitalized cannot be analyzed, right? So that's where the productivity kicks in, right? So that's where you then say, hang on a minute, your driver spent 10 minutes delivering this, when they can take a better route and you can take 2 loads, for example, and they can deliver 10 minutes to 2 houses instead of 1, right? How do you do that with paper? You can't do that. So for me, the short answer is, can investments in digitalization be recovered? Of course it can, through productivity gains, it can. There is a lot of investment from a time perspective that we have to take into consideration, the MDECs, the SME Corps. That is actually quite difficult. Being on, listening to us talk is a time investment, right? So, as a small small business owner manager, time is crucial, and giving them back that time is the main productivity gain that's useful for them.
Excellent. I really like as well what you mentioned about like creating the ecosystem, and because drawing upon the different perspectives, and then how do SMEs really make the business case for this. So Mr. Wilson, and then perhaps you can elaborate also a little bit further from your perspective, and I'm seeing as you're the CEO of, and this is SME as well. So what is your experience, and like how do you engage with SMEs? How do you make the business case for them and to invest into technology?
Yeah, thanks, Shanta. Yeah, I think all the panelists here with me, I think is more senior than me. I'm basically from a small business SME on the ground itself. So we deal a lot with SMEs players in Malaysia. So yeah, definitely we get a question very often, like right now we are investing into IT. So when can I get an ROI back? So I believe this is kind of common whenever the business owner came to us to ask on this. I believe definitely the ROI can be gained back by having IT element in your company. And the question is, and if so, in what area of the SME business? I believe every area in the SME businesses can be digitalized, and you can gain back your ROI in another area. Like for example, a lot of SME, they come to us. Definitely, they are trying to digitize their back-end processes, like the back-end operation. So this is one of the very important key element for the SME business. So right now, even if you start to digitize your business in terms of HR or e-commerce and so on, you will definitely have data in your company. The data definitely you can be analyzed, and then it will help you to manage better in terms of your inventory management if you are in the retail businesses or if you are in the F&B businesses. So when you come to reorder your stock, or for example in the next month cycle or the next year cycle, then definitely you will know with data analytic in your hands, then you will know which products are actually the popular products among your customers, and which are the less popular as well. So in terms of that, with the data that you have in your hands, then definitely you can plan well on your inventory management by not wasting a lot of others less popular products, and definitely it will reduce your cost in the long run. And yes, the ROI can be definitely gained back in a way. So there's one very common example in the F&B retail. So for example, another way that we are dealing is a lot since the pandemic hits last year. One of the businesses that we are dealing a lot is the events which is the exhibition expo. So right now you can see, previously we do have a lot of offline exhibition that in the country itself, but then since the pandemic hit last year, we do realize that there's a lot of online exhibition nowadays, or online expo in a way. So this definitely didn't stop you from promoting your business through online. So by investing into online expo system in a way, you definitely can still get customer back to your online expo, and then definitely you can generate some income on that. I believe a lot of digitalization can be done in a lot of areas, such as even the social media and so on. Yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah, with this part, we have get to some good insights about business productivity, business efficiency, how this can be improved through digitalization. But rather to also be in line again with the topics conference today, which is the SDGs and sustainability. I'd like to direct the next question to Ms. Kausalya, to actually see, like as we have less than a decade to achieve this SDGs by 2030. And as well, beyond that, Malaysia is moving towards a low carbon economy by 2050. So everybody, including the SMEs, really need to set ambitious goals and take action. So Ms. Kausalya, how actually does, SME digitalization enable sustainable development? How can it actually help for SMEs and to contribute to the SDGs?
Okay, thank you. I think what we have seen is embedding the digital technology has proven to be a boon for productivity and sustainability in long term. Not only in the case of Malaysia, we have seen it globally, and it has been particularly evident during the crisis times such as this COVID-19 pandemic. And what we believe is, in the case of SME Corp, while we have digitalization and sustainability, definitely we can link them, but we think there are three major areas that SMEs can adopt to navigate under the new normal. Namely, of course, one is digitalization and innovation. When you talk about digitalization, we're also talking about innovation. Second is sustainability, and third is inclusiveness. These three areas, if I can take if I can quote Aiza to marry them, but this is a tripartite marriage. I don't know how it works, but digitalization, innovation, sustainability, and inclusiveness is something really important for SMEs. Why do we say that? First of all, we believe the SMEs have to leverage on this innovation and digitalization to push forward the recovery agenda. You have to do something different. Of course, the current trend, the last few weeks has been quite worrying. We can see people going back to the old way of doing things. Even when we wanted to have e-exhibition, people are requesting for physical exhibition. So it's quite a worrying trend. That means what happened like past 1.5 years is like just a temporary setback. In fact, we wanted it, even the government, we have started having all the physical meetings and everything. So actually we wanted to have it as a new normal, but we are going back to the old normal. So that's something, a worrying trend. But we believe that we have to leverage on innovation and digitalization for the recovery agenda. And one thing what we can see that I mentioned earlier, the online presence of among SMEs have doubled from 35.3% in 2019, that's pre-COVID, to 75.8% in 2021. This is based on surveys done by SME Corp. So it's really doubled the online presence. And we want this to continue. That means don't stop now. Everyone wants to go back to the shopping malls. Continue this online presence. And this online presence include activities such as online stores, websites, social media, e-commerce platform, mobile application. So that's something good. And second part is, of course, I mentioned is sustainability. If you're looking at long-term recovery growth, principle of sustainability is very important for steady growth of SMEs if you want a sustainable growth. We believe the SMEs, this is the right time for them to integrate sustainability principles, namely ESG, into their business strategy, because most of them are recovering from COVID, some are changing their business model. So this is the right time to incorporate the ESG model. But what is the issue with the SMEs is not, most of the time it's not that they don't want to do it, but it's a lack of resources and know-how. They just want to go to one place and actually people tell them what to do. And the third is, of course, inclusiveness. We believe that SMEs, many of those, COVID-19 has put the spotlight on those who are economically disadvantaged, those at the base of the pyramid. So we believe that SMEs plays a very important role to offer decent job and social protection for this kind of group. So this is where SMEs plays a very important role for job creation. So these three things, digitalization, innovation, sustainability, inclusiveness, they come as a partner. When you put all these three things together, then you can see a better recovery and a very what we call a very sustainable recovery. That means when you recover, you don't fall back when another crisis comes. So this is something evident that we have seen in other some of the businesses, which we believe the SMEs put it into their recovery plan, then they will see a better results. Thank you.
Excellent. It's very interesting, Kausalya, how you mentioned about digitalization and inclusivity. And because that also kind of indicates those that do not have access to digital tools will be excluded from the new economy. So I would like to ask from Ms. Aiza her perspective as well, especially since you are mostly involved in also creating that awareness and campaigns. Like, how do you see the next few years moving forward in order to make digital inclusive and to all the SMEs?
I like what Kausalya said just now, right? I mean, where we are both basically in government agencies, where it's really what she's saying is really, really worrying, because there's always this question like, can you come to the office and have a face-to-face meeting? When what we're trying to do here is not saying that, no, we don't want to see you because you're not important. But if we can leave for the past 2 years, actually meeting online, let's not abandon that. Okay. So that is setting the context of what I'm gonna answer to your question, the next couple of years. So if the next couple of years, at least from where I am and where I'm sitting or where I'm standing, there needs to be a constant, I don't know how to put it without sounding a bit like Cruella de Vil, but there's always needs to be a constant checkpoint of what we had to suffer and what we had to go through because of the pandemic. We need to have those checkpoints and reminders to really understand that this is not going to be another 100 years that this whole pandemic happened and we are all suffering from it. Because Shanta, where I am right now, I saw firsthand how businesses moved from being very successful to become, when I say successful, this is SMEs that maybe will graduate into a regional player, kind of fall. It's a slippery slope into SME, and from that a more slippery slope to become micro SMEs, and then died death. Is a very brutal death, right? So for the next couple of years, with that in mind, we need to look at every single thing that Farouk mentioned, every single thing that Wilson mentioned, every single thing that Kausalya mentioned, and all encapsulated in one word: ecosystem. So without that ecosystem built, what are we including people in? And when we talk about ecosystem, it's literally the whole, Wilson, you say this perfectly, it's the whole entire supply chain. And Farouk touched about investments, right? And Farouk talk about business costs. And every single one of us is looking at not big strategy, but operationally. So Shanta, the next couple of years is really about SMEs taking not to say a step back, a step forward, where digitalization is not putting your products and services on Facebook and Instagram. Yeah, that's not digitalization. Digitalization and building the ecosystem and being inclusive is a total I don't know what word to use to actually put it out there that this is so important. If I want to say revamp, it's such a puny term, right? It's understating the whole entire situation. We really need to take a step forward and look at every single part of the business and look into digitalizing it, whether it's big, whether it's small, but really creating the whole into ecosystem from within the SME itself. And then it will start to breed the whole entire to the whole entire system. And I would really like to say digital should spread like wildfire. I know the analogy is a bit morbid, but we can no longer take small steps. It has to be total change. It has to be, and culture. Somebody posed a question on culture of doing business, whether it plays a part in digitalization. Yes. I mean, leaders like me and from everyone here, we can no longer expect someone to be physically in the office. We've got to change the whole entire culture of meetings. We have to change the whole entire culture of presenting, the whole entire culture of connecting. I know I'm answering the question before it's being asked, but it's just a fantastic question. I kind of caught it at the corner of my eye. So the inclusivity is really about looking at the small parts of the business and asking yourself, how do I digitize this part? If it's about sending across, how do I logisticize that bit? If it's about talking to my client, how do I digitalize it? Should I WhatsApp him? Should I talk to him? Should I call him? Should I be there to meet him or her? So those are the things that when it comes to ecosystem build, don't just go for the big digitalization processes. It's also the small little ones that needs to be looked into for digitalization potential. I hope that answers your question, Shanta. So that, to me, summarizing it, those kind of small steps, it needs to be consistent and constant for the next couple of years. That needs to happen very, very rapidly, if I can put it that way.
Great, thank you, Aiza. So, and of course, when we're talking about digitalization, that really enables an access to an array of data. And so if you're a big data expert, such as Dr. Farouk that we have with us here, what is your perspective on like how big data can be used by businesses and perhaps by other organizations in order to drive sustainability?
Interesting, because I've not seen big data in Malaysia yet, Shanta, to be honest with you. I think we're all still using small data. So I think using data to improve sustainability, one of your questions obviously is how does digitalization complement sustainability? First, you have to capture the data, because like I've mentioned before, if it's not digitalized, you can't analyze it, right? So you have to capture the data. Data capture is important. And typically what happens in an SME level is that data capture is expensive. So if you want something to replace the PO or delivery note, you have to have a device, and that device costs money, right? Or that app on the phone costs money. And then the workers will say, hey, but I'm not using my phone to download the work app, so you got to give me a phone. So that costs money. Network connectivity costs money. So all that will have an impact on the SMEs, and SMEs cost is one of the main drivers of staying alive, I guess, in business. So when we talk about sustainability, once you have those the capture data devices, as I call them, and it could be a simple HRMS system. Most organizations don't have, or SMEs don't have, a simple HRMS system or a ERP system or connectivity between the ERP and the HRMS system, right? So it can tell you, for example, SDG goals. You can talk about education. You can talk about employee development. How does SMEs do that, right? How does an SME do employee development in terms of learning and development, right? How does an employee report on gender equality when they don't know what the counts are in terms of, how many male and female working with them empirically, right? So what I would say is that for them to do that, they have to start from the basics. Having tools that can measure that will help them then deliver towards their sustainability goals, right? So digitalization helped that, right? So if you look at it, there's 17 goals. We always talk about the climate change, but there's 17 goals that we have to achieve. Obviously, not all of it. Number 17 is partnerships, right? So how do you build partnerships if you don't talk to anyone digitally these days, right? There's no way in hell you're going to do that, right? So you have to go into digital. You have to go into LinkedIn. You have to go to build that partnerships in one of your SDG goals, right? And to support your SDG goals. So it is inevitable that digitalization will complement sustainable development. And I would dare to say that without digital, there will be no sustainability drive, right? So how you need to go into digital to get data, which then helps you understand your business better. I think someone has mentioned it before, understand your customers better, understand how you deliver your business better. And then how do you then deliver against the SDG? One small point that I picked up, which is slightly separate. If we talk about low carbon economy by 2050 and SDG goals by 2030, it's for me, at COP26, I've been following the progress of people who fly private jets to Glasgow to go to a sustainability conference. It's that we're talking about things that are 10, 20, 30 years, right? So even from a government policy perspective, right, If the parent, which is the government, is actually saying, we'll be okay for the next 25 years, right, to do this, how do we expect SMEs to react, right? We'll take one small step today and then another small step tomorrow. So what Aiza has said is true, right? We've got to do it rapidly and we've got to do it quickly because 97% of our economy is driven by SMEs, right? So how do we encourage and drive the SMEs to move this needle even quicker for Malaysia? Let's not wait to 2050. Let's try to do it in 2025, right? What's wrong with that, right? So why do we have to have 2050? Why not 2028, right? So we have to drive that from an SME perspective collectively, right? And help them move that sustainability index through digitalization at a quicker pace. I think that's our responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sustainability is, as you pointed out, is a very big topic. It concerns global issues. So governments, SMEs, different type of stakeholders, everybody needs to be involved and take action. But, when we're addressing sustainability issues, we don't want to be so gloomy. And especially for an SME audience, you think like, oh, but I'm an SME. What is the difference that I can make? What can I do? So, just bringing it back again to digitalization. And what could be some of the starting points for SMEs? And Mr. Wilson, would you like to give some words of advice? Where could an SME start?
Yeah, I think you have to analyze what areas in your office that you can start to digitize. You should start with one area, start small. You identify a prioritized area to be digitized. For example, like a very good example from the matching grant that MDEC provided or CDEC provided, there are actually 5 key areas that I think SME should look into that, which is the POS system, the HRMS, ERP, and the CRM as well. All these digital marketing as well included as well. So I think these are the 5 key areas for the SME if you want to start your digitization journey. So like Mr. Farouk said, a simple HRMS solution will be sufficient enough for you to embark on the digitalization journey. So because it will definitely enhance your productivity in a way that you no longer to go back to office during the end of month, just like the government announced last year on the March 2020, where government announced there's 1 day off for us, for the admin to go back to office to settle all the claims and the salary, just because that I think they realize that SME a lot still is not digitization, it's not digitized yet. So I think starting with HRMS, CRM and ERP would be sufficient enough for SME to embark on the digitization journey. Having a simple CRM as well, where you can track your relationship with your customer or relationship or the status of your sales team with your customer, like what is this going on this customer? Is this a hot lead or cold lead? And yeah, I believe you can go and see the MDEC and CDEC matching grant. Those 5 areas I think is very sufficient enough for SME to start with on a digitalization journey. Yeah.
We have 7 actually, Wilson. But thank you for bringing that up, Shanta. The matching grant and everything, we've got 7 digitalization, and Wilson just said very, very correctly. Come and talk to us. We should be able to help you out. So I just thought I helped Wilson there. Yeah.
Great. We are building and expanding the ecosystem here. So for any SMEs that need support, please contact the fellow panelists here. And because also when we're talking about implementing this technology, implementing the different type of systems, and Ms. Kausalya, when we're talking about how to implement the systems and what are the skill sets and the talents that is out there, do you, in your engagement with the SMEs, do you feel that there is a talent gap, or how can SMEs overcome this challenge?
Okay, I think I'm going to take this question a little bit differently from the perspective of a government agency. I think Wilson has mentioned the benefits of going digital, right? Government, in the role of the government, we are a facilitator, right? You should not do something because there's a grant out there. experience. 20 years ago, SME Corp used to give grant for ERP. It's a matching grant, $500,000. And then after 5 years, and then we used to get an application, like the whole organization had to stop other work and do processing. So a lot of application came in, right? And after 5 years, we changed it to a soft loan, which is just 4% interest. The take-up rate was so bad. So why is a push is being done because of government grant? Push need to be done because there's a benefit for business. Then it will be sustainable in a way that you want to make the digitalization sustainable. So I believe businesses should do something not because there's a grant. You go for facilitation, yes, that's the reason why you have grants, facilitation, but not because there's a financial assistance. You have to do it because you see the benefit to your company. So this is where talent, it's not something out of the world nowadays, because if you go for a small software, it comes with all the support. You don't need to have it in-house, but you have external parties giving you support. So this is the thing that I believe that we should do something because it's good for your business. It's not because the government is pushing it. UN Global Compact say you must go for sustainability. No, it's because it's good for your business. So I think that's where if not based on my experience at SME Corp, we see a lot of things we do when the government stop, the SMEs also stop doing it. So we are like, why? It's good for your business. Why are you stopping it? So these are things that I think, going back to your question on talent is not an issue. There's a lot of talent outside. Our graduates are there. MDEC is there. If you want external party software, comes with support. So talent is not a big issue for SMEs. It's either you want to do it or no. That's all.
Well put, Kausalya. So instead of looking to our parents, towards the government, and in order to hold our hands, and maybe we should focus on driving that internal culture within the organization. And Ms. Aiza touched upon the question from the audience before. And so what does the culture? We have one question here. What is the importance of an organizational culture in driving digitalization? So perhaps Dr. Farouk would like to comment on this perspective, from his perspective, especially considering the Berjaya group has many subsidiaries. So how do you really cultivate that culture of digitalization amongst many companies, amongst many staff and employees?
Culture will eat strategy for breakfast. So you can have all the strategies in the world, but if your culture is not right, then you will never have that. And instilling a digital culture is very important in trying to get your business to play the part. Now, there is a need to conduct your shift on how you conduct the business, yes. So we need to think of new business models, new ways of engaging your customers, new ways of engaging your employees. So all that culture, that is part of culture, which is the softer side of digitalization. So obviously in our organization, because we're a consumer business with multiple facets, from construction right through to F&B, there are different cultures, and we have to take into account those sensitivities in the culture in the businesses itself. So I think for an SME, where the culture is primarily driven by the owner managers, and it's the same for a large corporate, it's usually driven by the top guy or girl, the top person, in how we do business. So we're lucky enough to have a new CEO in place, as everyone knows, who is driving a culture of change and digitalization, right? The best way to look at this, and I think this is where slightly on your second thing, empirical evidence that businesses can be more sustainable with digital adoption. I'm going to mention a few names, see if you recognize them. Kodak, Toys R Us. So they're no longer here, right? The press, right? So if you don't digitalize, you will soon be out of business. Our traditional red and white taxi service. You can name a whole list of them that has just gone. Industries have gone, right? So in so much that if you don't digitalize, you will and don't change the way you do business, we don't have to wait for taxis anymore. Taxis come to us, right? So if you don't change that culture of how you do business, your competitors will, and then it will then overtake you. It's very simple. You don't have a HRMS system, your employees won't stay with you because they don't know. There's no learning path. There's no career goals for them, right? As they say, we're now living in a social revolution. Our workers want social things. They want work-life balance. They want better equipment. They want free lunches, thanks to Google. They want everything else, right? So how do you keep that if you don't have a HRMS system, right? So how do you then service your client better, because you are still sending them paperwork when your clients are your competitors are sending them through WhatsApp or through any other digitalized platform. So if you don't digitalize and change the way you do business from a cultural perspective, and there are instances where, you know, in the organization we're suffering that as well, where owners or CEOs are refusing to change, it will then impact the bottom line. And I think that's the thing that will drive your cultural change. How do I engage the digital customers who expect digital services or services from your company? How do I engage them better? So in short, culture, like I said, will eat strategy for breakfast. So think about how you're delivering that culture. Think about how you're engaging your employees and making them a better workplace to work. Think about how you're engaging your customers as well.
Excellent. Okay, we have some more questions from the audience. We have 10 minutes left, so please keep them coming. So there's a question: is there real empirical evidence that businesses can be more sustainable with adoption of technology, or do you need to shift on how you go to market? Well, I think we need data in order to give a good answer to this question. But perhaps, like, what are some of the shifts, like how you go to market? Mr. Wilson, would you like to add on this question?
Yeah, I think we need data on the real evidence. But then what Mr. Farouk mentioned just now, if you don't change, then definitely we know the result of it in this current situation or the current new norm. But how do you need to shift on how to go to market? I believe there's a lot of way for you to shift to the market. Depends on what businesses are you in at the moment, and having online presence definitely is one of the key thing for your businesses nowadays. Like having a proper website or e-commerce or even social media platform, so that, because a lot of end user right now, a lot of users, they tend to search things through mobiles or through internet nowadays when they want to look for restaurant or products or reliable source in the Klang Valley or in the Malaysia itself. So I believe online presence definitely is one of the key area that the company should look into that. And on the other hand, on the back-end processes, definitely a lot of newcomer to your office or a lot of employees nowadays, they definitely look into having digitalization journey company to work with. You don't expect a newcomer. I mean, you don't expect me to go into a company that's still using a lot of papers nowadays to apply leave, for example, on the HRMS, or to submit my claim through physical paper. Nowadays, all these things can be solved through HRMS, a simple HRMS solution. And having ERP and CRM definitely is another key area that we should look into that. You don't really rely on Excel anymore. I mean, although Excel, most I would say that a lot of people or SME owners, they think that having Excel is actually digitalization. I mean, for the business owner, they used to think that I'm actually working on Excel, so I think I am still okay with that, with all the formulas and so on. But then Excel definitely is not a way, I mean, a tools that you should really consider in the long run. I mean, to having a system or proper system in your organization. So by having ERP and CRM, definitely it will lift up your company to another area where you can actually manage all your stock or inventory in the ERP itself. Like, your stock are running low, and then you can just order by one click only through the system itself, and then you will know what's the status update of your employee or your sales team or even the program team with the current task on hand or with the relationship with the customer. So I believe there's a lot of areas that SME can look into that, especially on the go-to market. But then it will really depends on the businesses or the areas that you are in at the moment. Yeah.
Shanta, can
Wilson,
I
I
just
am
add
laughing during
something?
your statement about the Excel because I have to admit that I am one of those. So I can talk to you a full hour about sustainability. That's no problem. But the marriage of the sustainability and technology, I need to update my skills on that. Yes, Aiza, please.
Shanta, can I just add one story? I think this story is gonna, I hope, will inspire the people out there. So this is no, I would say this is some empirical evidence. All right. So I have a guy that stays somewhere in Kedah, which is at the border of probably it is close to the border. So it's just put it this way, it's very remote, right? Very remote. So what he did was he decided to sell car fresheners, right? He did his own market survey. Very, very young guy. Car freshness, where he actually looked at the cars that's passing by where he's at, and he decided, okay, now everybody needs car freshness. So what he did was that he followed one of our programs, which is the e-commerce MS e-usahawan, right? So onboarding him onto the e-commerce for the rural areas. So he started as one person selling car freshness. So just to let you know, his turnover now is about 100,000, and he has three ladies working to help him out. So that's one thing for you. When you think about change in terms of adoption, and Wilson just hit it correctly, right? You changed about where you want to go with your digitalization, and then you go and change your go-to-market approach. Another person, same thing. I mean, I just got back from Langkawi about a couple of weeks ago, and knowing firsthand how they actually changed their business by adopting digitalization. And we're not just talking about digital marketing, even ordering system. Another person was selling the headgear. I don't know if you know this. Farouk might know this. Do you know what when men for Malay wedding, the men are wearing tanja, right? Farouk, they call it tanja, right? The headgear. So what he did was he decided to put it on e-commerce platform, digitalizing himself. And now not only is he selling the headgear in Malaysia because it's originating from Malaysia, he also sell it in Singapore. So there you go. Digitalization for you to do it for your business to expand for the reach and also some parts to propel it forward is a foregone conclusion. It's just something that you need to do. And yeah, Shanta, maybe someday you and I can change from Excel spreadsheet to something else, but I'm with you on that. It's baby steps, but like we said earlier, like Farouk, it needs to be rapid baby steps, right? It needs to be rapid. Um, Again, Kausalya said the same, a very poignant thing. It's not about the grants. It's about what you want to do. We're just here to help. So put your mindset to changing the culture for digitalization, embracing technology, even though it's baby steps, and really going to the market differently from before, leveraging on digitalization. So yeah, I thought I'd just segue into it a little bit because it's a very, very good question being asked for number one and number two.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
I think that this question indeed, like how to go to market, especially for the SMEs, this is very relevant. So I can see your passionate responses. And so perhaps the other panelists, Dr. Farouk, and then after that, Kausalya, would you like to give your closing remarks as well and perhaps elaborate on this question? Dr. Farouk?
Yeah, so I guess I think, you know, just to reiterate what we've just said, it's just about getting change done and getting change done as quickly as you can, and thinking about the baby steps of the you have to take, but you have to do it fast. And I think, you know, the biggest thing that I empathize with SMEs owner managers is the time, right? So it's the time investment, because someone once said, I hated working 9 to 5 for a big corporate. I started my own business and I work 24/7, right? So you spend all your time running a small business, and you don't have time to think and innovate. And what I would say to leaders, whether you're a big corporate or SMEs, is that have some time to think about what you want to do next. Don't just be operational. You know, take a couple of hours a day just to think about what am I going to do next with my business, and that's where you will get ideas for digitalization. You will then understand what you need to digitalize, or how you want to digitalize.
Okay.
Thanks.
Kausalya?
Thank you. I would just like to address, I think one of the questions asking about Access Center for Sustainable SMEs. I think my CEO mentioned it this morning. I assume that's the panelist. This is something that work being done by UN Global Compact with SME Corp Malaysia. We want to build a platform that SMEs can just come to the platform when we will help you to move towards business model. But what was mentioned is just a teaser. So we are looking at launching this platform. It's an online platform, because I know SMEs, if you ask them to do something, they will need assistance how to do it. So this is what the platform's role will be, in educating them as well as channeling them to relevant financial assistance. So this platform, we plan to launch it in the first quarter of 2022. So for the person that asked the question, thank you very much. Please wait for the launch. Hopefully by then we will have a concrete assistance to help SMEs to move towards sustainability. Thank you. Thank you, Shanta. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Kausalya. And since we've been granted another few minutes for this session, I just want to be blunt and take this opportunity to talk a bit more about access, especially considering that we have been talking about creating the ecosystem for SMEs, and we have Dr. Farouk and Kausalya who has been helping, and we've been working together to create the Access Action Center for Sustainable SMEs, and which indeed is going to be launched next year in the first quarter. So it is consisting, and it is helping forward SMEs to assist you in your sustainability journey. As most of the SMEs really, you don't know even where to start. Perhaps we're talking about digitalization, which can help you in your sustainability journey. Today, in earlier panel discussions, we were talking about ESG, about climate data, etc. So there's a lot of different topics within the sustainability field that can be very overwhelming, especially for SMEs. So what we've done, we created an SME ESG assessment tool. This tool is really in order to help you, to give you it's a self-reflection tool for you to understand where your SME, where your business is at this moment in sustainability, because you may already implement certain sustainability features, but you are unaware of it. You never considered it sustainability because that's just how you run your business. So this tool really helps you to get more clarity on this ESG data. So we will drop the link here in the chat box. So you can take the assessment tool and then tie to it. After receiving your results report, you will have clear indicators about where you could probably educate yourself, and how can you then improve your ESG scoring. So this is all coming from a supply chain perspective. What we mean by that is that because if you are improving on your ESG and sustainability performance, there are corporates out there, and whether it is your corporate buyer or whether it is your financial provider. Earlier today, we heard a panel of Alliance Bank as well, to see how are these kind of corporates, how is your banks going to give you different incentives for you to become sustainable. So also, I want to re-emphasize on what Kausalya and Aiza mentioned earlier. Like, this is not about, you're getting financial incentives and financial assistance, that's why you should do it. It is really because it makes the business case in order for you to drive sustainability and become more efficient, become more client-friendly, because you'll be working on satisfying your customer demands, etc. So I will keep it at this, but please do feel free to visit the link and also to contact us if you would like to get any further information. So with that, we've come to the end of our panel discussion. It was the last panel of today, so I hope that all of the audience out there has found this very fruitful discussions. Thank you to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.